Please be seated. The court is back in session. Good morning, Mr. Eichhorn. Answer. Good morning, Mr. President. President. If you need something, please tell us, and we will authorize you to do so without any problem. The chamber now gives the floor to the prosecution. Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I would like to talk to you about a very precise event. It has to do with something that happened in the barracks in Takeo town shortly after the town was captured. And I will quote what you stated in the record of your interview, E319.1.32, in answer to question 108. It was part of the answer you gave. You stated that at the Takeo provincial headquarters, they killed both civilians and soldiers who were in the barracks. End of quote. Free translation. This is what you stated. When you talked of the soldiers and civilians who were in the Takeo barracks, I'm not talking of evacuees from Pen, of course. Was that on the very day Takeo was captured or the days following the capture of that town? President, please wait a minute. Counsel Kong-Samon, you have the floor. Counsel Kong-Samon, I object to the manner in which the deputy prosecutor is putting questions to the witness, because what happened in Takeo doesn't fall within the scope of this trial segment regarding the executions of soldiers in Takeo. This has nothing to do with the scope of the hearing today. Prosecution, I believe that, quite on the contrary, it is very relevant. We need to understand the context of the events. The events occurred not very far from there at Champalo Pagoda. We also need to know the nature of the enemy targeted. May I therefore continue putting this question to the witness, Mr. President? I do not have very many more questions on the subject. President, you are allowed to ask the question. The chamber needs to know the answer that the witness will give to this question. Prosecution, witness, did you hear the question I asked, or do I need to ask it again? Answer. I did not properly hear your question. Could you please repeat it? Mr. President, may I request the interpreters to speak a lot louder? I have the impression that the witness is not hearing my questions very well. Let me rephrase the question. You told the co-investigating judges that in the provincial headquarters of Takeo, both civilians and soldiers who were at the barracks were executed. And I stated that here we are not referring to what happened with the evacuees of Phnom Penh in Champale, but we are talking about what happened in Takeo town in the barracks. Regarding the fact that those soldiers and civilians at the Takeo barracks were killed, the question is, did this happen on the very day Takeo was captured or the days following the capture of that town? Answer. The inhabitants, civilians, police officers and soldiers were in the barracks in Takeo. They were brought out of the barracks. These were people who had been evacuated from other provinces such as Kampong Som and other provinces, and they were assembled within the Champale Pagoda. Very well. I will revisit that event at Champale Pagoda in a while. All I want to know is whether people were killed in the military barracks in Takeo itself prior to that incident. Answer. I don't know the exact number of people involved because it was a period when there was a lot of fighting, there were casualties. It happened not very close to where I was. I couldn't know who were killed. The evacuees had been brought from all parts of the country and assembled in Champale Pagoda, and they were subsequently redistributed to other cooperatives. And thereafter, we had to find out which commune needed people, how many people for labor, Sapiantom, how many people. So the chiefs of those communes came to pick up the people and take them to their respective communes. Very well, says the prosecutor. We will talk about the events that occurred at Champale Pagoda. I will put a number of questions to you on those incidents, but these questions will be very short and specific. First of all, let me read out to you what you told the co-investigating judges in the record of interview E319.1.32. And that is in answer to question 113. You were asked to say what you knew about the massacres of Lone Nol soldiers and their families in Takeo province, and your answer was as follows, and I quote, "The Khmer Rouge announced their victory. Phnom Penh is defeated. After that, people were evacuated from Phnom Penh to Wat Champaluk Pagoda, located 3 kilometers on the west of Ang Tasam, Tramkak district. For 7 days, the Khmer Rouge made propaganda that they were seeking soldiers, and they registered their names on lists. After that, they eliminated them without leaving any traces. As such, they decimated hundreds and thousands of officers until they were completely decimated. Not even second lieutenants and first lieutenants were left. Only ordinary people remained. Then they allowed those people to return to their home villages. End of quote. Have you clearly heard what I've read out to you, witness? Part of the translation was a free translation, says the interpreter. Answer, yes, I was aware of that history. I was aware of what happened. Regarding what I've just read out to you, regarding Champaluk Pagoda, can you tell us in what commune it was situated? Answer, it was in Kapem village to the west of Angta Sound. So that was in Tapem commune. How long after the 17th of April 1975 were the evacuees from Phnom Penh and Kampasong present at that location? How long after did they arrive there? Answer, I cannot give you an accurate figure. There were so many people that our streets were flooded with people, they were clogged with people, and they all came to settle in the middle of Champaluk Pagoda. You said that inhabitants from Takeo also went to that pagoda. Is it correct to say that inhabitants of Takeo town were the first people who arrived at that Champaluk Pagoda? Answer, yes, that is correct. In the record of your interview, E319.1.32, the same we've just referred to earlier, in answer to question 104, or 124, I beg your pardon, you said that people from all over the place were rallied by the Khmer Rouge 3 to 4 days after the liberation. What did you mean when you said that the Khmer Rouge mobilized many people for that operation? Can you specify how they went about it? People came from Kokong, from Phnom Penh, from Takeo, from all over the country, and they stayed there for a week. Registers were drawn up indicating how many people were present, and then they were redistributed to the communes. The commune chiefs came to pick them up and take them to their respective villages. That was the procedure of that particular operation. Question: before all those evacuees arrived, shortly after was that shortly after Phnom Penh was captured or shortly before, were meetings held to prepare for the arrival of those evacuees and their redistribution? Answer: I myself transported rice for the purpose of feeding evacuees at Champaluk Pagoda, and people transported rice from several villages and nothing else. Let me repeat the question. What I would like to know is whether the people arrived at Champaluk, a meeting was held, or meetings were held, preparatory meetings at the level of the districts and the sectors in order to determine what had to be done with those people. Do you know whether meetings were held? Answer. Meetings were held regarding how to draw up lists, how to redistribute the evacuees to various communes. For instance, the names of the evacuees had to be registered on the list with a view to redistributing them to the villages and communes that were to receive them. During those preparatory meetings, did they talk about the fate of former Lon officials and civilians? Did they say how they were supposed to be separated from the other evacuees? No. The names were registered on communal lists with a view to redistributing them to the communes. And once they arrived at the cooperatives, they were separated at the base, at the grassroots level. In fact, when they arrived at the pagodas, the work done was quite simply to redistribute them to the communes and the cooperatives. And other work was done subsequently. Let me read out answer 113, in which you state that at Champaluk Pagoda, officials or officers of the former regime were registered on a list for 7 days. And once they were registered, they were eliminated and no traces were left. As such, hundreds and thousands of officers were decimated. Was that done at Champaluk? That is the registration of officers of the Lon regime. And who did such registration? Answer. That is something I do not know because I did not take part in such work. Well, I am not saying at all that you participated in such work. All I am asking of you is whether you knew that such work was done. Did they ask the officers to state whether they had been officers in the Lon army in order to retrieve their positions? With the Khmer Rouge cadres, not yourself. Say that to the evacuees. President, witness, wait a moment. Council Kongsamon, you have the floor. Council Kongsamon, thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question because it is a repetitive question. The witness has said that he was not aware of that and that he did not attend such meetings. So the witness's answer is very clear and there is no reason why this question should be asked again. Prosecution, Mr. President, I don't think that is the case. The witness would say whether he participated or not. But his answer is not clear with regard to the events, and I am relying on his own statements, which are also very clear. The statements he gave the co-investigating judges. I think that by insisting on this point, I am doing something that is very necessary. President, the chamber needs to hear the witness's answer in order to clarify the matter. Witness, answer the question, and if you do not remember the question, you may ask the prosecution to repeat it. Answer. Counsel for the prosecution, please repeat the question. I have already forgotten it. Prosecution, I wasn't talking about your role at all. I was just referring to the fact that if, as you said, the Khmer Rouge Guard who were at Champaluk Pagoda asked the evacuees who had been officers in the Lon Nol Army to register on a list by telling them that they would be reinstated in their functions. Is that what the Khmer Rouge cadres did? Answer. I was not aware of that because I did not get anywhere close to that place. Information was bandied about by word of mouth. All we did was to receive the evacuees and to redistribute them in the respective villages. To refresh your memory, I'll read out to you another part of the record of your interview, E319.1.3.2. E319.3.2. And it is a response to question 117 that was put to you. The question, you learned about this because you worked at the district office. Is this correct? Answer 117. I went to see what was happening when the propaganda was being made in an approximate area of 10 square kilometers crowded with people. The Khmer Rouge announced that everyone would be allowed to go back to their former work. End of quote. And here you state that you saw the Khmer Rouge carrying out propaganda. Do you confirm your statement? Answer. Yes, they engage in propaganda with a view to identifying officers. Question. Were many military officers caught in the trap, so to speak, because of such propaganda? Did many officers reveal their ranks in the Lon Nol Army? Answer. The soldiers, the police officers, and deputy chiefs revealed their past, and the Khmer Rouge registered all that information, and thereafter they were led away. I do not know where exactly they were taken to. Question. Did you yourself or other persons see those people ever again after they were taken to the locations you were not aware of? Answer: I saw them as they were redistributed to villages and communes, and I never saw them again at Champalok Pagoda. Very well. I'll read out to you again another extract of the record of your interview E319.1.32. First of all, question 118 was put to you as follows. Who was in charge of the propaganda operation involving thousands of people? Answer: Tamok was in charge. Question 124. Answer: above Samdon, precisely, I was still coming to that passage. Question 124 was put to you by OCIJ investigators. The question was, when did this take place? And this was the answer you gave. Please listen carefully. 3 or 4 days after liberation, the Khmer Rouge collected people from all directions. Present at the operation were Samdan, Chief of Tramkak District, Tuong Tim, Chief of Trapiang Tom Commune, and Dek Sim, Deputy Chairman of Trapiang Tom Commune, the person in charge. Samdon was chairman of the propaganda operation for these particular people. Now, you have stated in this passage that Tamok was in charge and that Samdon led the operations, so to speak. Is that what happened? Answer: Dek Sim was the superior of Samdon, and the evacuees were assembled at a particular location.
Did you see Tamok on site at Wat Champak Le or around Wat Champak Le when the evacuees were there?
I did not see Tamok or any of the committee from the district. I only saw Samdon and Sim who were there with the people who were brought to the place.
Fine. When you said that Tamok would supervise this operation, can you provide clarification about that? Was it because he was the zone chief, or did he indeed take part in this operation, more concretely speaking?
I never saw Tamok come to that area. The district chief was not there as well. I mean, at the place where the refugees were gathered.
When you speak about the district chief back then, was it indeed Yekom? That is Mies Moot's wife?
Yekom did not come to the refugees area, and as I said earlier, only Don and Sim were there.
At the same time, is it right to say that you did not spend a full week observing the events at Champaleux, and that you would go back and forth with rice loads. Is that correct?
No. I heard that people were gathered to that area, and I went to have a look in the area. I was there for only an hour, and then I returned home. And I only went there once. And when I was there, the only two people that I saw were Samdon and Daisim, as I mentioned earlier.
You spoke about the fact that lists of officers of the Lon Nol Army were drawn up. Was this something that you saw when you were on site, or is this something that you heard about later on at the district office?
No. The list of the people were at the villages. For example, a list of 100 people, and the number of the people, the list would be sent to that particular village.
Yeah.
Fine. Now I'd like to turn to another topic. We're going to be speaking about arrests of Lon Nol officials and of servicemen, but a little after the events at Champaleux. And now I would like to base myself on a quote from your written record of interview, E319.1.32. It is answer 27. And you said, one day I saw a whole group of people, and I ended up asking the question to the people who were escorting these people. I asked them, where are you going? And they replied that they were going to meet Ankar. Only later on did I learn that those people had been arrested. I therefore never asked them again. Those arrested included teachers and former civil servants. End of quote. So you said that you saw former civil servants and teachers being arrested in Tramkok district. Do you remember when this particular event took place? Was it after 17 April 1975?
Regarding the arrest, it happened before the city and the entire country was liberated. I think it happened in March 1970, and people were being marched from the north to the south direction. And when I asked them where they were heading to, they said that they were going to meet Ankar. So I was afraid, and from that day onward, I did not ask again.
Fine. Now let me speak about another period that concerns us more. This is the period between 1975 and 1977. And I'm going to read out once again what you said before the co-investigating judges. E319.1.32 at question 45. And the question is the following. In Tramkok district between 1975 and 1977, what procedures were used to identify the enemy? And you answered the following. At that time, people were categorized into three classes: middle class workers, lower class workers, and laborers. Those who did not fall in these categories were all pacifist agents and were accused of being enemies. For instance, former teachers. Vietnamese nationals were the same. They were taken away with no trace of their return. End of quote. So my question is the following. Who announced that the former teachers or the peacemakers should be considered enemies?
For those who were arrested as they were accused of enemies before the liberation of the country, they practiced the notion of killing all the capitalists or reactionaries, and they had to kill them all wherever they were at all levels. And that also applies to teachers and to commune chiefs or deputy chiefs. And not only the former Lunar soldiers, but for those who worked for the previous Sangkum Niyum, as in the case of my father, were also the subject of arrest. So they themselves were crushed by the wheel of history.
Thank you. So my question, in fact, was based on the 75-77 period, and I have the feeling that you're speaking about the period before the 1975 liberation. Well, this concept of enemy, however, that is to say former teachers, officials of the London administration as well as London servicemen, were these enemies still the same after 17 April 1975? Were they still being tracked down?
Yes, indeed.
Fine. In the months and in the years that followed their arrival at Tram Kak, were the 17 April people, that is to say the evacuees from the cities, did they have to write up biographies on a regular basis in the communes, in the cooperatives, or at any level in the district?
Yes, that is true.
Savez-vous?
Do you know why? People wanted to know what the past was of all of these 17 April people, of all of these evacuees. What was the point of knowing what they had done before?
They wanted to know about the people who were evacuated from Phnom Penh to rural areas in order to identify their political tendencies in the liberated zone. For example, I had lived in the liberated zone. However, I was implicated because my relatives came from Phnom Penh, and then I was re-educated. And this kind of policy applied across all the communes without any exception, as at that time the historical wheel was in full motion. And the people who were the targets were arrested, and the arrest took place also in the liberated zone.
Can you explain this expression used often, that the wheel of history was turning and would crush the opponents, I believe you said. Can you explain the meaning of this expression? And did you hear this expression coming from Khmer Rouge cadres?
Allow me to clarify the point. People who judged the meeting was the wife of Mahmoud, and who was the chief of District 105. She says that all those capitalists, feudalists, or reactionaries were the subjects to be smashed, and after that, arrests had been made successively in various communes.
Do you know if this was a generic principle? When Com would say that capitalists, the feudalists, and the reactionaries had to be crushed, had she received any instructions from the upper echelon in that regard, or was this a purely personal initiative on her part?
I do not know whether she received any plan from any level, but for every mass meeting, she reiterated the same point and expression.
Is this an expression and a policy that you heard about later when Yekom left the Tram Kak district and when she was replaced by other leaders as in a position of district chief? So did the other district chiefs use the same kind of expression to define the enemy?
Jacob used that expression until 1976. Tamok came to conduct 3 mass meetings consecutively. Then Ye Kom fled to Koh Kong. After Ye Kom had left, nobody else talked about that expression.
Why did Tamok organize consecutive mass meetings, and what were the topics that were discussed in these meetings?
He spoke about building dams in Potrobite, and he asked who killed the third assistant of the district chair. And in fact, Yekom killed Cheer, that is her third assistant, and that Cheer was a close friend of Tamok. And when he went to visit the work site of dam construction in Potrobite, he held a mass meeting there, and he spoke about the nature of the work there, and he was trying to find out who actually killed him. And in fact, Cheer was a female, and that Cheer was not a spy, and we had to find the one who killed Cheer, and then that person would be buried under the ground up to the neck. And after that, Yekom was afraid and fled to Koh Kong.
Bien.
Fine. I'd like to turn now to the biographies again. Where were the biographies kept? Were they kept in the commune registers, or would the communes forward the biographies to the district level?
I do not have a firm understanding on the issue of biographies. as I was not allowed to know about this matter.
Can you tell us if, on the basis of your observations, people with bad biographies, with a bad past, such as the 17 April people, were these people particularly watched over by the commune or district militia people?
At that time, I saw people going around asking people to to make a list of people, and the person who did that was the chief of the district youth. And after he made a list about the people with their political tendencies, then the list would be sent to the district office, and that was also for the purpose of selecting people or youth to work for the district office.
Now, with regard to the biographies, I would like to read out what someone who testified before this chamber said. But before that, I'm going to ask you if you know this person, Ye Bun. It is Ye Bun. Do you know? Or did you know her in a commune in Tram Kak district back then?
Please pronounce the name again and whether the person was male or female.
Alors,
yes, this is a woman, Ye Bun, B-O-E-U-N, who apparently was a commune chief and a district chief.
Yes, I know Ji Bun. She's the wife of Tachon. Tachon was chief of a Popel commune, and she was in Kabalo village Chiang Tong commune, and after I had left, she moved up to be chief of the district.
And when you say district chief, you mean a member of the district committee, or maybe a district secretary?
I cannot hear you clearly.
Ji Bun Loan Tu.
Ji Bun became the chief of the district after Jai and Jim left. And in fact, she was with a man there, but I was not sure who was the chief and who was the deputy chief of the district.
Fine. So this week she testified as the former Chiang Tong commune chief, and she said this at answer 254 and 255 of her written record of interview E319/12/3/2, and I will quote in English because we don't have a French translation of it.
question 254. When the commune chiefs began to collect biographies from the people and found someone who had been involved in the Lolnol regime, what happened to those who were associated with the Lolnol regime? Answer by Ye Bun. Immediately when the Khmer Rouge regime began, they commenced making biographies of people who used to be teachers, policemen, or civil servants in the Lolnol regime. Then they sent all of those biographies to the upper echelon. That was an order from the upper echelon. Question 255. To your knowledge, what happened to those who had been involved in the Lon Nol regime? Answer by Ye Bön. After the biographies were sent to the upper echelon, they provided the names of those people to me. Then I ordered the arrest of those people and sent them to the upper echelon. Some were able to return, some could not. The arrested ones were mostly soldiers and policemen. Not many teachers were sent there. End of quote. Donc voilà ce que Ye Bön a dit.
So this is what Ye Bön said about the drawing up of biographies and of the arrests of former policemen, servicemen, and teachers in Chengtong Commune. Does this testimony about this procedure correspond to what you may have heard with regard to what was happening in other communes in Tram Kak district back then? Would things happen in that way? That is to say, drawing up biographies, sending them to the higher echelon, which would send them to the commune, which would then arrest people. Did you hear about that happening?
I was just a simple villager, so I did not know the details on this matter, and only those who worked and dealt with this matter would know.
Très bien.
Fine. I was speaking to you about your position at the district office. Although you were not a cadre, you probably heard what people were saying in this office from the different cadres that you were in touch with. Were cadres such as Wo, Pi, Kon, or your cousin Dawn. Did they speak about this process, that is to say, identifying people and arresting them?
Yes, that is true. While I was at the office, soldiers who were arrested would be sent to the district Angka. And as for their communes, for example, once they receive instructions or orders to arrest from the upper echelon for certain individuals, then the names would be circled in red ink, and then the district soldiers would bring those people to the district, that is to Nerikom, and that's what I saw.
Fine. Can you tell us where exactly, concretely speaking, people who were arrested were brought to? Were they brought to a detention center, to a special place, in order to be detained?
When people were arrested because their names were circled in red ink, they would not be detained, they would be executed immediately. And if the husbands were soldiers at the front battlefield and some of the had a sexual affair with the wives of the soldiers, those men would be arrested and re-educated. But for those people, their names appeared in red circle, in circle in red, would not be spared. They would be killed immediately.
We will get back to the blue and red circles after the break. But now, with regard to the people whom you said were re-educated, were they sent to a re-education center? Were they free to move about where they wished to? Or were they detained in a specific place to be re-educated?
Those people whose names circled in red would not be sent to any re-education school. They would be sent away. And as I said, for those who had sexual affairs with the wives of the soldiers would be sent for re-education for 3 to 6 months. And as I said, those whose names were circled in red would be sent away and never seen to return.
Concretely speaking, those who were sent to be re-educated for 3 to 6 months, do you know where they were sent to? Were they sent to places where they would work like regular people, or were they sent to places where they were detained at night? Did you hear cadres or policemen from the district office speak about this?
I saw what happened with my own eyes. They were detained near at the district office near Ongroka. At night time, they were asked to carry earth, and then they were detained at night time. And depending on their work performance, some of them will be released after 3 months. As for others, will be released after a period of 6 months.
Now, regarding the place where you worked, you just spoke about Angroka. So I can conclude from that the district office was at Angroka. So how far was the district office from the office of the district committee, if both offices were different? Was there only one office, or were there 2 offices?
The district committee had a house far from the district office. Their place was not close to the district office. As for the re-education office, it was close to the district office as well, and there was only one district office, and the logistics section was also there at the district office, and here I refer to where Sam Don worked.
Bien. Est-ce que le bureau du district était également le même bureau?
Well, was the district office the same as the commercial office in the district?
At that time, the office was referred to as the commerce office. It means where goods and materials were distributed, and the chief of the office worked there as well.
Bien, peut-être la toute dernière question.
Perhaps this will be the last question. You talked of the educational office very close to the district office at Angroka. Was that re-education office situated a few hundred meters to the west of the Angroka market?
Yes, that is correct. It was located about 300 meters away.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
President, thank you. It is now convenient to take a lunch break. And the Chamber would like to inform the co-prosecutor and the other parties regarding the proposal or the request by the International Co-Prosecutor for the chamber to hear arguments from the parties in relation to evidence obtained by torture. Detailed information will be sent by an email from the senior legal officer to the parties in a very short time. The chamber will recess for lunch and resumed at 1:30 this afternoon. And Mr. Aichhun, it is now time for us to rest for lunch, and please come again to the room for the testimony at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kirsampon to the waiting room downstairs and bring him back to the courtroom this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ